It is Friday, June the 7th, one day away from the weekend. Working for the weekend here on WagerTalk TV. This is WagerTalk Today, and we're live every Monday through Friday, noon Eastern, 9 a.m. Pacific. You can watch us on YouTube TV, also YouTube Shorts, and day drink with us on Instagram Live. Don't forget to watch the replay, though, here and comment below. We read all the comments, and we reply back. Thumbs up, like as well. I am Steve Merrill, filling in for the Prez. He's on assignment. He'll be back Monday with my co-host, Teddy Covers. We've got a great show Friday, Teddy. Lots of different sports here. We're going to talk a little bit about NBA Finals Game 2, Mavericks Celtics with Ross Benjamin later in the show. He's also going to look at a baseball game between the Orioles and Rays. You're going to have a baseball game as well, Blue Jays Athletics and the big game breakdown. And, of course, it's Friday, so Art DiCesare, Westgate Superbook Risk Supervisor, will be here to talk about all the different sports. But we're going to start off with the prop master himself, Andy Lang, who's going to look at a little hockey and also a little PGA golf. Andy, welcome to the show.
Assignment. That's great. Prez is on assignment.
That's my go-to when I don't know what he's up to.
I love
What's he up to? I don't know what he's up to. What's he up to?
Yeah. I'm sure he's doing the beat, trying to cover games.
My guess is it's golf. My guess is it's golf. Is that right, Teddy? Yeah, because I've been on it last couple of Fridays. So, yeah. You and I were on, Andy. I had a feeling it was golf.
Yeah, I mean, look, it's the time of the year. If you're going to take Fridays off, you take them off. His dad's aging. He wants to golf with his dad. No problem with that.
As opposed to all the other days he takes off during the week.
Yeah. Well, that's different. But this one, well, it's fine. You want to spend time with your dad? More power to you. That being said, let's get into some props with Andy Lang. Obviously, Lang is the prop master. We're going to start with some Sam Reinhart, who I don't even know who he is, but apparently he plays hockey. Tell me about him.
He does. He plays hockey very well for the Florida Panthers. And if you want a complete breakdown of all the props, Andrew McGinnis and myself recorded the show Props and Parlays today earlier. So did about half hours, as many props as possible. But this is one that just really stuck out. It's minus 166. That sounds like a lot of juice, but not really. We're going to take him under half an assist. So we're just taking him to not have an assist. In 17 games in the postseason, Reinhart has one game with an assist. This play is 16-1 in the postseason. However, he's a goal scorer. He has 7 games with a goal. So when we're looking at these props in hockey, you can take players to have a point. You can take them to have an assist. You can take them to have a goal. There's no reason to mess with the points or even the goals prop. You're just looking at Sam Reinhart, and you're taking him to not have an assist. I expect this series to be fairly low scoring. The Panthers do a great job at not allowing the opposing team to get shots on goal. And in their last series against Rangers, they only scored 16 goals total in 6 games. So not a lot of goals I expect in this series, not a lot of points to be spread across a lot of players. It may sound juicy, but, man, when I get a trend that's 16-1, I'll play this in game 1, game 2, game 3, game 4, and however long this series lasts.
So is there any correlation here between a bet like this and a bet on the under in game 1? Obviously, you talked about the low-scoring nature of the series between the Panthers and Rangers. Edmonton plays a different style, obviously. Even I've been able to pick that up on this show. But does it correlate at all with the under? Is this, because you're not a guy that bets sides and totals in hockey or in most sports, but you're a guy that looks at the props. And in my mind, as you're talking, it correlates with the under. Yes or no?
Yeah, and the books are all over it. The over-under is 5.5. A regular season, these games are 6.5, maybe even 7.5 when you get 2 high-scoring games. The books know these teams are fantastic. Edmonton, I believe, number 1 in penalty kills in the playoffs. So these defenses have just rose to the occasion. And you go down the list of the Oilers and Panthers' previous games in the last series, there's a lot of 5-goal games. So absolutely, it does correlate with the under. We talked about taking somebody like Evander Kane on the Oilers to not have a point and parlaying it with the under. It gets you plus money. Evander Kane, I think he had 1 point in the entire last series. So, yeah, when you got a series that you totally expect unders and you really expect not a lot of goals, yeah, this is unders all day long. This is a series made for me. I love playing unders in NHL. So, yeah, it does correlate with the total 100%.
It's Talking Props with the prop master, Andy Lang. You can find him at wagertalk.com, wt.buzz/Al, I believe, A-L, Al. I love the short buzz tags. We have some good ones at Wager Talk, and Al is a pretty good one for Andy Lang. Andy, speaking of golf, the Prez is golfing. I want everybody in the comments below here on the replay to guess his handicap. Now, we probably have like a 5 to 6 stroke margin of what his real handicap is to what he'll tell you it is on the show on Monday. But, Teddy, make sure you ask him Monday in case I forget to tell him. That's a good 15 minutes right there, Teddy, so you won't need a What Bettors Learned or a big game breakdown on Monday because I'm sure that he'll go off the rails on that one. But once again, chime in on the chat and on the replay chat in the comments. What do you think Prez's handicap is? And we segue into some real golf, Andy, with the Memorial Golf Tourney. What are you looking at here? Give us a play.
So this play goes off at 1:40 Eastern time. So you've got about an hour and a half before this tees off for those of you watching live. And this is just the books have started putting out individual round scores. And since they've done this, Scotty Scheffler has just been an under machine. And I'm just playing it like probably every round from here on out. So Scotty Scheffler under 70.5 for his round 2 score. That means he has to shoot -2 or better to cash this. Yesterday he shot -5. He's just the best golfer on the planet. There is no weak part of his game. Driving, he was number 2 yesterday. Approach, number 2 yesterday. Putting, 19th yesterday. I've been watching the rounds this morning. The wind is around 18 to 20 miles an hour, but it's going to start to slow down right as he tees off. And the other thing, yesterday, Scotty Scheffler teed off early in the morning. It was wet. And a lot of times there was mud on the ball when they were hitting it out of the fairway. And it caused him some kind of weird shots that flew to the left or right that he normally doesn't hit. That being said, he still shoots -5. This is a play that I think you just consistently play. I went back and looked. This play is like 3-1 or 4-0 in his tournaments. This is a guy that if he finishes third, it's a disappointment. So he's up. He's only 2 shots off of the lead. I expect another solid round from him. Like I said, I've been watching. The conditions are not completely difficult. He's the best tee to green player in the game, which this course is all about. So give me Scotty Scheffler under 70.5 again. He only has to shoot -2 or lower, and this bet cashes.
So they got the mugshot up there while you're talking of Scotty Scheffler. Are there any lingering after effects for that, or is this a complete non-factor? Right, it's something we can make fun of him for. I mean, is it anything? Sometimes. So you talk about the baby factor, all right? Is the I got arrested factor anything, or is that really nothing worth? Especially at this stage, nothing worth talking about.
Did you know he had a baby a couple weeks before the arrest? Did you know that? His first baby? Yeah. So
I rely on all of my baby information from you, Andy. So when you tell me someone is a baby, otherwise I don't know.
So not only did this guy have his first child, he got arrested, and he still is just ripping off wins and top 10 finishes. Nothing flusters this guy. The charges have been dropped. So no, there is no lingering effects from the arrest. I don't know if he's ready to laugh about it now, but it appears to be behind him. I'm sure at some point he will be ready to laugh about it. I don't know if it's going to be this season or maybe even next season, but it is just, of all the golfers on tour, he is like widely regarded as one of the nicest and most calm guys. So of all golfers to be seen in a mugshot, it blows my mind, and it is hilarious every single time. Just never in a million years. It just looks fake. For someone that follows golf like I do, it still just looks fake. It looks like a Halloween costume or something. But no, lingering effects are gone. I watched his entire round yesterday. Very calm, great shots, putting, ball striking looked great. We can ride his under here.
Yeah, and if you expand that photo, I think you can see the back door and the cell there open and his chauffeur waiting for him to go back to the golf course. And the jumpsuit's not even on him. It's like just a carry down, I think, like one of those fake tux shirts. The whole thing was remarkable. Cam Stewart and Gabe Morency and I, Teddy, were doing the show that Friday night. Cam was getting very worked up about him getting off, so it was actually very entertaining to see. So I've been following it a little closer just because of that. By the way, balls 429 and watch. Going? Yeah, Cam was sweating more than normal. He was really getting worked up about it. These guys get away with everything, and I was like, and then it turned out to be a total nothing charge, but it was fantastic. Balls 429 in the chat is saying they love the graphic, Dan. That is Dan the Man Alexander, of course, behind the scenes, and he will be hosting the MLB show, and I'll be on with Adam Trigger at 2 o'clock Eastern live. Sean Alvarez in the chat, as he often is, said handicap 12. And then he said, wait a minute, I was talking about Andy. Prez is a handicap 20. So there we go, Andy. Sean Alvarez showing you a little bit of love there. You would beat the Prez by 8 strokes, according to the live chat. Andy Lang, the prop master, what else you got going on?
We got a weekend pack that is up. We've got a really nice UFC best bet 13-5 run in the UFC. We got a cross sport parlay that we've attached to that one, 14-6 run on cross sport parlays. We've got a couple of lacrosse plays as well. Don't need a promo code. Just go to Andy Lang's profile page, grab that pack. One price, get you 4 best bets for this weekend. So smoking deal, loving the run that we've been on in 2024. Looking forward to keeping the profits coming into bankrolls. And just funny, you mentioned the chauffeur picking him up. Steve, you know who picked Scotty Scheffler up at the jail was actually the owner of the golf course they were playing
the owner of the golf
at.
Course. Yeah, I did know that.
They were making no bones about it. When the owner of the golf course shows up and says, let this man go, you let the man go. So
no, we actually talked about it that night, Andy. That's why I said this whole thing's insane. I was like, can you imagine the phone call that the sheriff or whoever the head police officer was got before the president of the golf course came to pick him up? I mean, the whole thing was just, I've never seen a guy processed and released that fast with an orange jumpsuit. So the whole thing was just fantastic. All seriousness, though, if you want to diversify your portfolio, I say this every time Andy's on, but look, we just talked hockey, golf, and he's got lacrosse. Teddy and I aren't doing either one of those this week. And so it's a great way to diversify your portfolio. Andy Lang, WagerTalk.com. Teddy, you do talk props occasionally, though, and you want to talk about a baseball prop controversy. Very curious to hear what you have to say about this.
Well, it's not supposed to be a controversy. All right. So last week, Zach Gallen started a game against the Mets. He threw 6 pitches. He left with an injury. And they counted all the overs and one of prop bets as losses and all the unders as wins. He didn't get an out, but he did give up a hit. So it's not quite the same. That being said, this just happened last week. Wednesday night, Kenta Maeda threw 2 pitches and then exited with an injury against the Rangers. You know, he threw the first pitch and he winced, and he threw the second pitch, and everyone came out of the dugout and he rubbed his right side, and they threw a few warm-ups and go to the dugout. You're done. All right. DraftKings voided all under bets on the Maeda prop. Strikeouts, outs recorded, hits allowed, et cetera, et cetera. They voided the overs as well, but they voided all the bets. The problem is, the DK rules, they're in black and white, in ink. Player props, quote, on any pre-live prop, the player must start and either throw at least 1 pitch, if pitcher, or record at least 1 plate appearance, if position player, in the designated game for the bet to have action. So if a position player goes in, plays in the field, and then doesn't get an at-bat, no action. But if a pitcher, in their stated rules, throws at least 1 pitch, it's action. And then the GK voids the bets. How does that happen? Is it because he didn't finish a batter, so he didn't record any official stats? Doesn't matter. He threw 2 pitches. You look at them. Any human being looking at the box score can clearly see that he started the game and he threw 2 pitches. So there's only 2 ways that could have happened. It was either a bad algorithm or a supervisor didn't know their own posted rules. Either way, it's a bad look. And hubbub ensued, and within a matter of hours, they had reversed. They fixed the grading on the Maeda props and paid out the under. But the fact that it was an issue for bettors who had that's not a good look for DK. And it makes me wonder, we're going to ask Art DiCesare about how stuff gets graded exactly behind the counter today, because was that human error? Was that algo error? Either way, not a good look for DraftKings, even though they did fix the problem. That's what I learned yesterday. Steve, back to you, my friend.
Well, and Teddy, what we also need to ask Arthur is, I don't know in Nevada if they can do what these books do around the country as far as not grade the over a loss. You know what I'm saying? Like they do that as a promotional thing, because Nevada's definitely stricter with the gaming regulations. So make sure we ask them that as well. My guess is what happened is that DraftKings is a PR move, which they often do, and FanDuel will do this too. They'll grade the over as no action so people don't get a bad beat. And maybe that screwed up the grade on the under, but you definitely can't grade them both as a push because the under was a pure winner. And we talk about that a lot with your season over under wins. Your NFL report will be up in the next month or so. There's intrinsic value with unders in season wins with key teams because there's the injury factor. Things are normally priced to where everyone's playing like they should. So whenever you're making an under prop in baseball as well, you do have a little bit of intrinsic value to the under just based on an injury happening. It doesn't happen often, obviously, but it is kind of a bonus. And yeah, that's a situation. My guess is that they were trying to help out the overbettors and maybe it screwed things up.
I don't know. I don't know. They didn't say. But, I saw a great tweet from, I think it was Todd Furman the other day, talking about, one of the differences between recreational bettors and professional bettors. And this is an old line I remember. I heard it like 20 years ago and I'd forgotten it. And but recreational bettors are always betting on something to happen. And wise guys are always betting on nothing to happen. They want the recreational bettors want, let's bet overs. And then wise guys are like, no, let's bet unders. Nothing's going to happen. And I thought that was a funny tweet and a mantra that I learned back in the day where, the casual bettors always want more, give me something, give me some of this.
Right.
And the pro bettors are like, no, nothing is good.
Well, it's interesting you say that, Teddy. I've never heard that, actually. That's one I have not heard after 30 years in this business. But I thought about this. We'll bring Ross Benjamin in because, Ross, you're going to touch on the NBA game in a moment. You, of course, do an NBA video every day. But, guys, I thought about this last night. I've said this quite often the last few months that a lot of recreational bettors are not serious about winning. There's nothing wrong with that. They want the action. They enjoy the roller coaster. I've made it very clear that I enjoy it less than I ever have in my 30 years. I don't watch half of these games because of it. I can get just as much information on the recap, digging through the numbers, watching an abbreviated highlight reel. But I thought about this, guys, last night with that NBA Finals. I had my strongest NBA play this season on the Celtics. They're up by 17 after the first. They're up by 29. Yes, when it got down to 8, I wasn't happy. But for the most part, it really was a no sweat. And I'm okay with that. But then I started thinking, guys, that, most people watching this game probably would enjoy it more if it was a 5-point game. I think that's what people want. They want the adrenaline rush, whether they realize it or not. So that's an interesting quote or mantra, Teddy, because I do think there's a lot of truth to it between recreationals and sharps. But let's bring on Ross Benjamin. Ross, we will talk Game 2 with you in a moment. And, of course, you do great NBA daily videos as well here on WagerTalk TV. You can find Ross at sportsmemo.com. But, Ross, we got to talk some baseball first. Orioles and Rays, the ultra-competitive American League East. What are you doing with this game? Baltimore at Tampa tonight on Friday.
Well, currently we got the Orioles at minus 120 as a road favorite. And Aaron Savelli gets a start tonight for Tampa Bay. And the Rays haven't fared very well with Savelli on the mound recently. As a matter of fact, they're 1-7 in their last 8 games when Aaron Savelli is their starting pitcher. And his ERA and WHIP has a lot to do with that lack of success. Over those 8 starts, Savelli has 6.14 ERA, a 1.59 WHIP, only averaging 4.9 innings pitched per start. He's been very vulnerable to the long ball this year. He's allowed 11 home runs and 62 innings pitched. And that's not good news when you're facing a Baltimore lineup that's hit 95 home runs in 61 games this year, or 1.56 home runs per game. And I always use that barometer of 1.5 or more home runs per game as an excellent power hitting team. So you got a guy who's vulnerable to give up a long ball against an excellent power hitting team in the Baltimore Orioles. Tampa Bay also, they'll be facing a Baltimore starting pitcher in Cole Irvin, who has a 2.61 ERA and 9 starts this year. Tampa Bay 0-8 at home this year, Steve, when facing an American League starting pitcher with an ERA of 3.70 or better, and they lose those 8 games by 3.8 runs per game. Tampa also has won their last 3, but they're 0-6 this year after a win with Savelli on the mound as their starting pitcher. Cole Irvin, by the way, his last 6, he's been tremendous. An 0.97 ERA, an 0.82 WHIP. I love those innings pitched per start, and he's got a healthy 6.2 innings pitched per start over those last 6 starts. And then you couple that with the fact that Baltimore's bullpen over the last 7 games, an 0.77 ERA with no home runs allowed. Baltimore is coming off back-to-back losses, Teddy, but you know what? They're 4-1 this year off back-to-back losses, only 1 3-game losing streak all season to this date. And Baltimore also, since the start of last year, they've been a very good road favorite of minus 110 or greater, going 32-13 in those situations. I'm going with the Baltimore Orioles here, minus 120 over the Tampa Bay Rays.
Why does Baltimore not get respect in the betting markets? I mean, again, we're seeing the wise guy money coming against the Orioles today. And admittedly, it's worked the last 2 days. And I will say this, in all road games that haven't come against the White Sox, they're just 2-5, their last 7 on the highway. But it seems like consistently the wise guy support isn't there for the Orioles. That's why they've been the most profitable team 2 years ago to support. That's why they're the most profitable team last year to support, and why they've been profitable again this year. Why? Any ideas? Why they have been an undervalued commodity for so long?
Yeah, I mean, again, we're pretty much, when you're talking about Major League Baseball, I think you can classify Baltimore as a small market team. That's part of it. I'm not sure that's the whole reason why. It is a head-scratching thing when you think about it, though, like you just referred to. I think in this particular situation, I think Tampa Bay has been overvalued all year because people keep thinking about Tampa Bay as the team we've seen over the last 4 or 5 years, and they're anything but, not even close in terms of quality. So, yeah, Teddy, it's an answer I can't give you intelligently right now, other than what I just said. But it's definitely mind-boggling when you stop and think about how good the Orioles have been over the last few years and what a great start they're off to this year. Look, I mean, they're overshadowed right now because the Yankees are off to a tremendous start. But you look at them, I mean, they're one of the best teams in baseball right now. So your point is well taken and well served.
Ross Benjamin talking some baseball. And you can find Ross, of course, at sportsmemo.com. He's 87-67, 20 games above 500 in baseball since last August in MLB action. But he does a great job in the NBA as well. Ross is now on a 116-70 NBA postseason picks since 2022. All picks, actually. I doubt that's just postseason, Ross, because that's a couple hundred games. But I know your NBA has been fantastic. Let's talk, though, about Game 2. You'll do an in-depth video. I will as well here on WagerTalk TV, so check out both of our videos for Game 2. I mentioned last night I did a late-night TV hit right after the game with Joe Ranieri on Sports Grid, and, you know, I said it's interesting to me that, obviously, I like Boston Game 1. It was my strongest play of the season so far. The situation is now better for Dallas in Game 2 off the blowout loss, yet the public wants nothing to do with them now after being all over them in Game 1, and the line is actually higher now, Ross, in Game 2. I get the reason because they got blown out, but do you think Dallas has a chance? You know, will Boston regress here like they have in some Game 2s so far this postseason?
Yeah, I did have Boston in Game 1, Steve, like yourself. I do think they will regress. Now, whether they lose the game or not, I'm not going to go out on a limb on, but I think when you look at this line in how lopsided Game 1 was, and the line in Game 1 was 6.5 and pretty much held steady throughout. In this line, if you look at the odds over at WagerTalk on our free odds page, opened at 7.5 and it's down to 7, even though, as you alluded to, the public is all over Boston here again. This Dallas team has been resilient this postseason. As a matter of fact, that was their 6th loss of the postseason in Game 1. They're 5-0 straight up in ATS off a loss in the postseason, winning by an average of 15 points per game. They're 7-2 straight up and ATS in their last 9 playoff away games. They're 4-0 straight up in ATS this postseason after scoring less than 100 points, which they were held to 89 in Game 1. Boston hasn't covered back-to-back games since Game 1 versus Cleveland. Now, a lot of that has to do with either laying a number on average during the postseason, but B, they lack consistency at times in terms of their intensity and their focus. And I think all it takes is a 3 or 4 minute period in Game 2 here to have that happen. And I think it'll put Dallas in a very good position to either win or cover this game. They're just 5-4 against the spread at home. They haven't been great in Game 2s if you stop to think about it. Yes, they beat Indiana by 16 in Game 2 in a previous series, but that was without their star Tyrese Halliburton. I mean, they're 1-2 straight up in ATS in Game 2s in the playoffs, which they covered Game 1 in all 4 series, and they haven't been great in Game 2 in a follow-up at home. So I think this is a vulnerable spot for Boston. I think Dallas has shown the ability to bounce back in a big way, and they're unaffected by playing on the road, and they've been a great underdog value throughout the postseason. So I'm going to go with the Dallas Mavericks here, +7 over the Celtics.
So in theory, I want to be with you. However, I'm still thinking about this game. I haven't decided which way I'm going to play it. But in theory, we've seen Dallas do this. They're expected to bounce back. We've seen Boston do this. They're expected to not be as focused. But this is the NBA Finals. The Celtics have spent 2 years trying to get back here. And all they've done this whole time is talk about, we're not looking past anything. We recognize what an opportunity this is. They had every edge. There wasn't anything fraudulent about last night's win. And people are saying, oh, well, after the first quarter, the game was even. It wasn't even. Boston did whatever they wanted, and Dallas didn't get to 25 in any game. What changes for the Mavs? What can the Mavs do adjustment-wise? Because I saw some problems last night that made me very reluctant to come back with Dallas. And normally we see you from game one to game two, the home favorite wins game one, the money comes for the dog game two. Here, the betting markets have made a clear choice. They're saying what we saw last night is what we expect to see moving forward. So I guess my question is, what adjustments can Dallas make?
What adjustments could Dallas make? Number one, they have to shoot the ball better. I mean, that's the most obvious adjustment they could make. And I don't know if you want to call that adjustment. I just think they're not going to have back-to-back terrible shooting games like they had. Now, you know, not to get off track, Teddy, but you said everybody expects Dallas to come back, yet you're saying everybody's on Boston from the public standpoint. And I like that even more because the fact that bettors at this time of year especially, and in this high profile of a series, are more apt to be influenced by what they saw the game before. And I'm looking at this line going from 7.5 to 7 and seeing Boston action and sharp money, including ours, mine, I should say, is going to be on the Dallas Mavericks in this situation. Adjustments are always made, specific adjustments. I don't like to go there, Teddy. You know what I mean? Because the bottom line is they got to be making great adjustments, Dallas, if they're 5-0 straight up in ATS after a loss this postseason. So they've shown, the coaching staff and the players have shown the ability to make the proper adjustments after a loss, and that's what I'm going to ride.
Yeah, and we've really seen an adjustment, too, in the series price. Boston was about a 2-1 favorite. Now they're a 4-1 favorite, so it's basically been doubled. Takebacks around plus 320 on Indiana. Ross, the biggest adjustment, though, was in the MVP odds. You know, there was only 3 guys, or 4 if you count Kyrie at 20-1, but we had Tatum at minus money. Jaylen Brown was 5-1. Porzingis was around like 50-1. He puts up 20. He played more than expected. He looked okay. I'm trying to find him now, but as of last night, right after the game, I saw him drop to like 6-1, even 5-1 in some spots. Just your thoughts on the way out on a Porzingis and what you saw last night. That's obviously another concern for Dallas.
Yeah. The Celtics, are they a better team with Porzingis? Obviously so. I mean, I just think it's unsustainable what he did last night. I'm not willing. That's a big overreaction in terms of, in my mind, to go from, what was he, 20-1 down to 5-1?
30.
Steve, you might have
50-1 or higher in a lot of spots.
It's a huge overreaction. Jaylen Brown, to me, the way he played last night on both ends of the floor, to me is more the guy I'd be looking at this point, rather than even Tatum. Tatum, I don't know what it is. I'm not in love with the guy. He's a great player, don't get me wrong. But I think Jaylen Brown showed last night, and if he could start knocking down his free throws, he should definitely be serious consideration for MVP if Boston does come out on top in this series.
Yeah, and Jaylen Brown's now up to about 2.5-1 after being 5-1. Tatum's now plus 110 after being minus 125. So we have seen an adjustment there. Porzingis, I'm seeing as high as 10-1 at some books, but still about an 80 to 90% drop after one game off the bench, mind you, with the 20 points last night in game number 1. That's Ross Benjamin. Ross, let people know what you've got going on at sportsmemo.com.
I'll have game 2 up very shortly. Again, folks, knocking them dead in the postseason. Number 1 in 2022, number 1 in 2023, currently 39-22 this postseason in 2024. And yes, Steve, that record is correct. Since the 2022 postseason, 116-70, 62%. And I know everybody questions me on how could you be number 1 and Steve be number 1. And just to repeat myself. Steve is on Wager Talk. Ross is on Sports Memo. Steve is number one regular season and postseason. I'm just saying I'm number one postseason. And guess what? I'm going to be on Wager Talk starting after the All-Star break. So now you'll be able to compare both of us, and I'm sure that we'll both be at the top. And you can't go wrong either way.
Well deserved, Ross. Glad to hear that, because you have been putting in some great work on Wager Talk TV. So it's very appropriate that you will be part of the WagerTalk.com website. So that's fantastic. In the meanwhile, you can find him at Sports Memo. But be sure to check out his Game 2 video. Check out my Game 2 video here on Wager Talk TV this weekend. Another reason to hit subscribe and click that bell for an instant alert. When the free play videos go up, you get alerted. You can watch them at your convenience. Thumbs up, like if you're finding this show useful and all the videos, because it does help keep the content free and plentiful. And once again, I read the comments. We all read the comments. We reply back. So comment below on the replay here on YouTube. And if you're with us in the live chat, keep commenting as well. Baseball show, 2 o'clock Eastern today, here with Dan Alexander, myself, Steve Merrill, and Adam Trigger. And then also the NBA tip-off show will be live at 4:15 Eastern, an advanced look for game number 2, don't forget, which is this Sunday. And that is Teddy Covers himself with Joe Ranieri here at 4:15 Eastern, breaking down the game 2 look. So, Teddy, a couple more hours for you to make your decision on which way you're going in game 2, if you're going to trust the Mavs to make those adjustments and which adjustments they can make here. Teddy, by the way, will be taking live questions. We also take live questions on the baseball show at 2 Eastern. So it's a great way to interact and ask about specific games as well for baseball. All right, before we get to Art DiCesare for a little inside Vegas talk, let's keep with MLB. Teddy, give us a big game breakdown for Friday.
Absolutely. Although I can't promise I'm going to have an opinion in 2 hours or a couple hours about what I'm going to do for Sunday's game. The good news, we've got a couple of days to think about it between now and game number 2. It worked for me in game 1. We may well do it again for game number 2. Big game breakdown for today. Let's talk some West Coast baseball, the Toronto Blue Jays and the Oakland Athletics. Right now, look at the Wager Talk live odds screen. I'm seeing the Blue Jays anywhere from minus 155 to minus 165 total in that game, sitting at 8. This line was much lower last night. They were minus 135, minus 140. That's why it's here and not a client play. That being said, low-hanging fruit, man. Betting against the A's at home. It's been a money-making strategy in every recent season. And Oakland's what? They were 17-17. And now they're 25-39. That's 8-22 the last 30. You can't be shocked if the A's go 8-22 their next 30, or 9-21, or 10-20. You know, I wouldn't line them much higher than that. You know, this is a bad baseball team. The starting pitching's been all right, but today it's not like they got their ace on the hill. You know, Hogan Harris, the guy who's tried to last and stay in the big leagues for like the last 3 or 4 seasons, hasn't been able to last, hasn't been able to make it. Well, he's getting a chance to start today. Not an ace. I'll just leave it at that. And certainly the Blue Jays bats have been fairly strong. Oakland can't hit. All right. You know, the lineup's ice cold. They scored 0-2-3-1. They beat up Chris Sale for 11. And then before that, 2-5, 3-3, 2-3-3. They're not scoring runs. You know, they have 2 home series wins since the start of May. They came against the Rockies and the Marlins, the 2 worst teams in the National League. And they won 2 out of 3 both times. Toronto isn't that. All right. The Blue Jays with some positive momentum. They've just beaten the Baltimore Orioles in back-to-back games, salvaging their 4-game series after losing the first 2. We got Chris Bassett on the hill today. Bassett pitched for 6 years in Oakland. He's been back there twice since he pitched there for 6 years. Each time he went back there, dominant, 8-inning dominant showings in a pair of wins. Look, I know you got to lay some road chalk. I know we're not getting the best of the number, but this is a lay it or don't play it game. Blue Jays or pass for this better. There's your big game breakdown. Back to you, Mr. Merrill.
Yeah, this is an angle I've been using quite often the last several weeks. I do a lot of the Friday baseball shows, including this afternoon. And Ralph Michaels had a great chart about a month ago about when just road or days of the week. I didn't think much of it at the time, but then I noticed that road favorites did really well on Fridays. Favorites did well, but especially road favorites. I started thinking that's mostly game 1. So Ralph ran some numbers for me, and that's the sweet spot is game 1 road favorites, especially on Fridays. And it makes so much sense because they don't overlook weaker teams, especially when they're traveling because they're in a new city. And Toronto fits that spot tonight. And it's an angle you've talked about a lot, Teddy, too, is just fading the A's at home because they have absolutely no home field advantage. They're a lame duck team in a lame duck city right now. So I like everything about that play. Jays, if you're going to play it, lay it with the Jays, says Teddy Covers. All right, let's bring on Art DiCesare, risk supervisor at the Westgate Superbook in Las Vegas. And Art, so much to talk about. We got NBA Finals Game 2. We've got hockey. We'll get to that in a moment. Of course, we got to talk Game 1 for Saturday. But let's talk NBA Finals. I want to ask you something we talked about with the Porzingis MVP odds. First of all, do you all have any liability with the big with him at all? Was he maybe 50-1 at your book? And also, the series price is now almost double for Boston. Any liability with the series or MVPs or anything like that?
So as far as the finals go, I said it to you guys last week. Even I might have mentioned it again on Tuesday. Boston winning it all is great for us. Dallas winning it all for us is a loser. It's not a tremendous loser, but it is a loser. You're right. Series price we've doubled. We opened 210. Pretty much when Game 1 tipped off last night, we were 220. We're now basically double that. Boston minus 400. Take back on Dallas plus 330. Interesting yesterday. Ton of money came in on that over. Open 214. We closed, I believe, 217 and a half. Obviously, the game stayed under, so under was really good for us. And Game 2, open 7.5, open 214. Little bit of Dallas money at 7.5. We're now 7, and a little bit of over money came back in as well. Ticked up a half a point to 214 and a half. Really no liability on Porzingis, Steve, really, to answer your first question. The big boys were really, obviously, Tatum. Kyrie was getting a little bit of love because of the number 20, 25-1. And I mentioned, if people were going to take Dallas at plus 190 on the series, they felt comfortable taking Luka at 2-1 to win the MVP, thinking, hey, if Dallas wins, it's going to be because of Luka, so we'll take our 10 cents of value on Luka with the MVP.
So are you surprised that this line for Game 2 opened higher than the Game 1 line? Are you surprised at the significant series price adjustment off of Game 1? Normally, in many instances, we see more of a zigzag feel. And in this instance, we're seeing Boston look dominant. Boston's a bigger favorite here. And the series price off a Game 1 home win and cover, which every NBA Finals, that's like the MO for Game 1s. That's basically the series price is doubled. Are you surprised by the support for Boston in the marketplace today after, a Game 1 win that doesn't necessarily mean that much?
Teddy, it's a great point, but I'm really not. I think the Boston power rating and just what they've been all year has been tremendous. Now, should the series price be doubled? No. Boston should probably be in the low threes, low $3 range. It probably shouldn't have been adjusted that much. And I think, obviously, the way they looked in Game 1 to go from opening Game 1 at -6, and then it was 6.5, to open Game 2 basically 1.5 higher at 7.5. We know the public's going to come in and see what Boston did, and they're going to lay them in their money line parlays all throughout Sunday. They're going to lay the points. They're not worried about it. You'll even see some people come in and say, look at how dominant they were. I'm still getting a fair price at -$4. And some people will do that. You see a lot of that after Game 1 in all series. But you saw the Dallas money come in. So I think the zigzag theory, the way Boston's looked in Game 2s, Dallas is probably going to see even more money. We'll probably get closer to what we were in a Game 1 scenario. Maybe not the opener of -6. Probably will tick down another half a point. We'll probably see a 6.5 here.
Yeah, Arthur, it was interesting because when I did my NBA Game 1 preview video, I saw a lot of public love in the comments. It's not an exact indicator, but I saw a lot of people like in Dallas 2-1, plus 180, whatever. They were on the Mavs, and I feel like a lot of that sentiment has died off after they got blown out. So I do feel like it's almost a reversal now where people like Dallas a lot in Game 1. Now they're a little hesitant, so it kind of makes sense that that line was set a bit higher. Let's transfer over to the other finals, which starts tomorrow on Saturday, the NHL, and no Prez. It's a Prez-free zone, so you have to beat Prez and talk hockey for us today on Friday. So hopefully you're comfortable being the Prez here in this role. But it's a very competitive series. $1.40 favorite Florida with home ice, $1.20 take back on the Oilers. Your breakdown on this series, your breakdown on Game 1, what are you looking at here?
Yeah, guys, listen, obviously I'm more than comfortable. Hockey is one of my, 2 or 3 favorite sports. So, once again, we talked about this Tuesday. We opened minus 125 on the series. I thought Florida probably should have been in the 140 range. And we hadn't really seen the movement yet. When we talked Tuesday, we were still sitting Florida minus 130 for the series. Saw some offshores starting to post 135, starting to post 140. And then we started to see the money trickle in on the short price for Florida. And now we're sitting at the minus 140. Like you said, take back on Edmonton's plus 120. Florida means the right side. They're the better team. I think at that 125, 130, 135, you were getting a discount on them. Edmonton's going to be very public because of their players, McDavid and Draisaitl, and all the things that they bring. Not a lot of people know Florida. They really just don't. They don't know their players. If you live in Vegas, you know them because they played, obviously, the Knights last year in the Cup final. Game one, interesting, really good two-way. Florida minus 130, obviously with a 10-cent line. Your take back on Edmonton's going to be plus 120. Sitting at 5.5, juiced a little bit to the over at minus 115. Really nothing on the total yet. And like I said, pretty good two-way on the side. I think if we get an over in game one, you'll see a 6 in game two. If you get an under in game one, we probably could stay at 5.5 for game two until we get to Edmonton, where obviously they really start lighting up the scoreboard when they get there.
Art DiCesare breaking down the NHL finals, the NBA finals, and of course, he breaks down risk issues at the Westgate Superbook here in Las Vegas each and every day at ArtDice21 on Twitter. And of course, a risk management supervisor, a guy we love, being able to pick his brain now twice a week here on Wager Talk Today. And Art, I want to ask you about how everything gets graded. All right, there was an issue that I talked about at the top of the show where a competing sports book, well, we call them out by name because they made a bonehead decision. DraftKings, they voided all the unders on the Maeda player props the other night. And I was trying to figure out all the bets, overs, unders, and all that. And it violated their own rules in black and white. And I'm trying to figure out how that happened. Is that human error? Is that algorithm error? When a score gets inputted at the Westgate, is that always a human? Is it for all the props that get graded? Is there ever a situation where the computer is grading stuff, or is it always somebody's eyes on the screen to do that at the Westgate? I'm curious how you think that happens.
This is such a layered question, and something that with more of the props that come into play here for us. And listen, we're in a lot of jurisdictions. We're in 8 other jurisdictions that have different, gaming regulations and different state gaming regulations. I've always said this, and we've had these talks before on the show. You need to start with your house rules. Your house rules are there for a reason. And
they violated their own house rules.
Yeah, no, exactly. And you start to see, and we always joke with these, these big companies. And listen, DK, FanDuel, they have all the money in the world to, like you said, do, positive, press for themselves and do all those type of things. We know for us, if it says must start, if the guy throws one pitch, he pitches one batter, whatever, we're going to grade accordingly. And yeah, you're going to have people who are going to complain on Twitter X and feel they need a, good karma refund and all those things. You start getting into real murky waters when you want to, like you said, violate your house rules, go against what happens. This is still gambling. Just because the guy, you took his over and he pitched one inning and now he's not going to get his 5.5 strikeouts or 17.5 outs. It's part of it. It's the way it goes. And we don't feel we're going to ever get into a position where we violate our house rules and we start manipulating and playing with this should be good karma, this shouldn't be good karma. For us, the easiest thing to do is always stick with that. But to answer your question, for us, we're a smaller operation. You know that, Teddy. I mean, we're not FanDuel. We're not DraftKings. We have admin. We have people who are grading things throughout the night.
Humans.
And obviously humans, of course. And we're always going to have a second set of eyes on that. We don't just have one admin guy or girl in the back room helping us out throughout a night. You have multiple people. Obviously, during a football Saturday, Sunday, you have a lot more than that. So it's always something that's for us through the human aspect of it, through our administrators. I don't know if FanDuel and DraftKings do it that way, so I can't speak for them on that.
Yeah, and Art, I mean, I know with the Super Bowl, it's usually the NFL.com game book, right? Or the official box score from like the NFL. So you guys are manually, like on those Super Bowl props, you have someone manually going in and maybe someone double checking them. on all the props based on the game book?
Oh, 100%. And like we do every Sunday, especially a Super Bowl Sunday, game ends, you'll have a frontline supervisor get up on the mic and say, hey, guys, if you have prop bets, you don't need to get in line right now. These could take 90 minutes to 2 hours to be graded. It's not instant. The game ends, we end it instantly. KC won, boom, that's graded, side and total are good. And then you just start going down the list. And you're absolutely right, Steve. You go to NFL.com, you go to the official game book, and that for us is the Bible when we're grading those type of props. Obviously other sports are a little bit different. We like to get two sources, maybe go to an MLB.com, maybe go somewhere else. So there are, some things where you can get a second source. But yeah, I mean, the props obviously have become such a new thing and a new market for us. And being in all these other jurisdictions, you don't ever get it, and you never really get in town someone coming up and wanting to complain about a prop. You get it in all these other new places, and I think it's because people are so new to betting that they see things, starting to light fire on Twitter, and they're like, oh, yeah, I should get a refund too. Well, that's not always how it works.
And Teddy, I want to ask you real quick something we talked about earlier. Art, I don't think in Nevada you wouldn't even be allowed to grade the over as a push, would you?
No.
That's what I thought, yeah.
And like you said, I heard you say it, Steve, all jurisdictions, all states have different gaming regulations. And, for us being in, 8, 9 different states, including obviously the home base of, Las Vegas, Nevada, I mean, you have to toe the line too with the different things you can do. But for us, we like to stay very strict across the board in all our jurisdictions, even if there are some where we can maybe, play around with the house rules. We don't like to do that. These are our house rules and we stick to them, and that's why you have them.
Sure. And that's why I was very interested to see, how something like that could get graded wrong. And then graded wrong despite violating the house rules. Art DiCesare says it could be human error, but it could be algo error as well. At ArtDice21 on Twitter, risk management supervisor, the Westgate Superbook. And Art, we got just a minute or two left with you before we let you go. Baseball. Where's the money coming today? Who do the pros like? Who do the Joes like? Anything stand out to you on today's MLB card?
Yeah, a couple of sharp things overnight. We saw the Twins take some money. Opened overnight -113. You're now seeing them at -125. Joe Ryan versus the Pirates. Now, the Twins just got slaughtered in New York, but they always do against the Yankees. Joe Ryan, very popular when they get a short price. Sharps like to bet him. Reds also -113 on the overnight. Now sitting at -127 versus the Cubs. Nick Lodolo. That's kind of interesting that the Sharps are taking the Reds because they haven't really been on them that much this year. But the Cubs are kind of going in the wrong direction. So, Sharps saw the short price on Lodolo overnight, and they took it. Braves went from under 8 to under 7.5 against Washington. And the Yankees are on all the parlays today. When you give the public plus money on the Yankees, a team who never loses, I understand it's the Dodgers, and the Dodgers are always public. But when you give the Yankees plus money at home, despite the young pitchers, despite going against Yamamoto, Yankees +128 in all the parlays.
Yeah, and that's a huge series this weekend, Yankees, Dodgers. Of course, tomorrow we have Phillies, Mets in London. So looking forward to talking to you next Tuesday about how some of those weekend series went for the book. And that's Art DiCesare. And if you think this is a great segment during the quiet time of year, can you imagine this football season when we have Art on every Friday heading into the weekend? Just yet another reason to subscribe and like and click that bell for instant alerts. Art, let us know what you got going on the West End. I know you got reduced juice for the football season, but what you got going on here in June? Belmont Stakes also tomorrow on Saturday.
Yeah, absolutely, Belmont. And listen, Steve, as you mentioned, Tuesdays are going to be great too, because we'll give you some opening line stuff, some things that kind of happen over the couple of days, kind of leading up to Friday. So that's going to be a lot of fun as well. Don't forget NBA Finals, -105 on sides, day of game. So, we'll be dealing that. Obviously, NHL, 10-cent lines. So all of that type of stuff. And, look for all the NFL stuff's out. Continue to, keep checking back. College stuff will be out shortly, as far as the win totals and games of the year and all that. And as always, any questions, reach out to me on X and Twitter. I'm more than happy to help.
And if you're in Vegas, check out that reduced juice for the NBA Finals on Sunday. That's a great deal. And you can go say hi to Art at the counter as well. Make sure you recommend watching Wager Talk TV to everybody in the sportsbook, and let Art know you saw him here on Wager Talk TV. Follow him on Twitter at ArtDice21, at ArtDice21. Teddy, enjoyed doing the show with you. Once again, the Prez will be back on Monday. Don't forget, right now at WagerTalk.com, you can get the rest of June for just over $7 a day. It's a all sports, no promo code needed special, which gets the rest of the NBA Finals, the NHL Finals, also baseball every day for the rest of June for just over $7 a day. That's about $3 a play. All cappers, no promo code needed, including Steve Merrill and Teddy Covers at WagerTalk.com. Baseball show, 2 o'clock Eastern. NBA tip-off, 4:15 Eastern today on Friday. Teddy, take us home.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll see you guys on Monday, because that's going to wrap it for the week here on Wager Talk Today. Thanks for watching. Enjoy the game, and best of luck with all your wagers.